U.S. foreign policy, despite U.S. President Joe Biden now being in the White House, continues towards belligerence regarding China. This is a continued escalation. As a matter of fact, Biden hasn't missed a beat. He picked up exactly where Trump left off, and he's going in the exact same direction. Look at this from DW. U.S. designates Huawei, four other Chinese tech firms, national security threats. There's no evidence provided that Huawei is a national security threat to the US. This is just the US continuing a policy to protect US companies that cannot compete against Chinese companies. And then Biden sends US Secretary of State Antony Blinken and US Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin over to Japan and South Korea. And this is from Foreign Policy magazine. The Biden administration wants to prod Japan more on defense and resolve tensions between Tokyo and Seoul because the US needs these countries as a battering ram against China. This is what this is all about. They have their troops in South Korea and Japan specifically as part of a wider strategy to encircle China. And if you go through this article, it's very interesting, especially when you search the word missiles. And it says, there is growing concern about how to nudge a politically wary Japan to boost its missile defenses. Boost their missile defenses for what reason? China is Japan's largest trading partner. Why would Japan want a shooting war with China? Why would China want a shooting war with Japan? They're doing tremendous business together. There would be absolutely nothing to gain over an armed confrontation. But let's continue. Japan already has Aegis-class destroyers equipped with SM-3 missiles offshore. But last June, Tokyo canceled delivery of the U.S. Aegis Ashore missile system, a shore-based missile defense system, pushing instead to develop a domestically produced solution. That's another area where the Pentagon may press the Japanese. Do you know who makes the SM-3 missile? Raytheon does. And do you know who Lloyd Austin was on the board of directors of before he became Secretary of Defense? That's right, Raytheon. So this is an immense conflict of interest. This is a man who came from the board of directors of Raytheon, cooking up conflict in the Indo-Pacific region, pressure the Japanese government to buy missiles from Raytheon, Lloyd Austin's former employer. And then after that trip, there were the U.S.-Chinese talks in Alaska. And here's a BBC article on this. U.S. and China trade angry words at high-level Alaska talks. The U.S. pledged to raise contentious issues such as Beijing's treatment of Uyghur Muslims in Xinjiang. The U.S. has been backing separatists in Xinjiang for years. They have created this extremist violence in Xinjiang that China has had to react to. And then as soon as China began reacting to this very real security threat the US created within China's borders, the US mobilized its media and its fake human rights groups to attack the Chinese government. They're only showing you the reaction that the Chinese government made to the security threat. They don't ever actually talk about the security threat themselves. And if you go to the US government's own National Endowment for Democracy website, they even have a whole section, Xinjiang/East Turkestan. Nobody calls Xinjiang East Turkestan except for the separatists. So even on their own webpage, just the title of it is promoting separatism. And you'll notice that both the trips that Blinken and Austin took to Japan and Korea, and also during the talks in Alaska, the US kept trying to depict China as some sort of aggressor, which is astounding projection. Because when you think about it, as Antony Blinken is saying this, as the words are coming out of his mouth, the US is illegally occupying multiple countries all around the globe, including a country on China's borders, because believe it or not, Afghanistan shares part of its border with China. And the US has been occupying Afghanistan militarily for over 2 decades now. So I hope that makes things a little clearer here. The US imagines itself as this unipolar hegemon ruling above all other nations, The rise of China, the reemergence of Russia, and the emergence of multipolarism in general means that is never going to happen. But the interests on Wall Street and the politicians they control in Washington are unable to accept that. They cannot find a constructive role for the US among other nations. They still insist on imposing themselves upon all other nations. And until that changes, we are going to see US and Chinese tensions continue to escalate. If you thought this video was useful, please like and share. Think about subscribing to the channel. It's free to do. It helps the channel grow. Check the video description for all of the links that I went over in this video, as well as for ways you can help support my work. And as always, thank you for watching.